Why do some ethnicities have a greater rate or greater increased chance of developing diabetes than other ethnicities? Hi everyone, my name is James Marin. I'm a holistic registered dietitian, environmental nutritionist, author, speaker, and diabetes expert. Today I want to focus on why African Americans and Native Americans have an increased risk and the rates of diabetes are extremely higher than most other Americans or other groups in America of minorities or even non-Hispanic whites or non-black whites, right? So why is that? Why are blacks and Native Americans at an increased risk, right? And why do they have increased rates of diabetes? Well, to answer that question, and to answer it pretty quickly so we don't keep you here all day, we're gonna go quickly into genetics, right? And it's very simple. When you look at your ancestors, right? And it can even be 100 years ago, it's much different. We lived very different 100 years ago than we do today, right? And even going back, let's say 500 years ago. So for those of you that are Native American, which I have some Native American heritage as well, you look at the Native American culture and you go back 500 or 1,000 years ago and the way they lived, there were periods of feast and famine, right? You may have heard of that term or you learned that in school, feast and famine, right? So they were always kind of foraging and they were growing some of their own crops as well, like corn and certain grains and vegetables, and there were fruit trees. So a big majority of their diet was plant foods. And then some Native American tribes were also buffalo hunters, right? So they would hunt buffalo and eat some buffalo. But every so often, maybe they couldn't hunt buffalo. Every so often, maybe they couldn't find or forage for enough food, or one time their crop of corn didn't do so well and they weren't eating a lot of food, right? So they had less calorie intake. So what their bodies do, and this is very true for African Americans as well, what your bodies do in those times of feasts and famine is your DNA remembers and your body adjusts. Okay, this is a field called nutrigenomics, right? Where your environment affects your very genome, right? It affects your DNA. So very, very cool stuff. And what the latest research and what even more and more research that will be coming out in the future, I predict, will be showing that DNA is like a flash drive. Your DNA will remember things from your ancestors. And even things you do now, your DNA is remembering. Okay? And I won't get into how it's doing that, but your DNA remembers. So if you look at generations and generations past, and if you look at your genes that have been passed on from who married who thousands of years ago, and what genes they had and what genes the other person had, and then it's making your great-great-great-grandparents and great-great, you get it, and so on and so forth. You're building these traits. So for Native Americans and African Americans, they were hunters, they were very active, they went through feast and famine, and so your DNA, your genetics, your heritage remembers that. So now fast forward to a time where there's Takis, and there's Doritos, and there's frozen food, and there's fast food everywhere. Add in the fact that a lot of Native Americans and African Americans live in low socioeconomic communities, right? So low income, right? As far as Native Americans, a lot of them are on Native American reservations where they're called food deserts, right? Not a lot of fresh local food, lots of processed, refined food. So what are their genetics gonna do? Their genetics are really good at eating whole, healthy foods, and their genetics are really good at storing body fat when there's not a lot of food. What do you think their bodies are gonna do when there's not only a lot of food now in the year 2018, but it's a lot of refined, sugary, fatty, salty food? Well, the Native American, African American body is going to easily put on the weight. It's going to easily put on this visceral body fat, right? A bunch of body fat that is not good, that's gonna boost your inflammation, right? You're gonna run through issues of just too much blood sugar and your body doesn't know what to do with it, so it starts to hurt your pancreas, it starts to create insulin sensitivity, and your body can't process the sugar. You get it, right? Et cetera, et cetera. All that is called metabolic syndrome, or as you know it, diabetes, which is part of this metabolic syndrome. Okay, that was a lot, right? So in summary, your heritage, your genetics, and even true if you're Hispanic, okay, you're at an increased risk for diabetes. And that is because of your heritage, your lineage, where your ancestors came from, what they did, what they ate, okay? Your DNA is gonna remember that. So if you're very efficient, your body's very efficient at not having food, and it was like a hunter-gatherer a long time ago, and today, if you're eating tons of refined chips and crackers and fatty animal products, you're easily gonna put on that weight because your body sees it as a feast, so it's time to hold on, but then the famine never comes for you to burn it all off, right? Because there's really never a famine now, okay? And even if there's a famine, there's a money or a financial crunch where you don't have a lot of money, there's the dollar menu, right? There's the dollar menu that many of Americans or people in general go to, and that food is still gonna be loaded with calories and fat and salt and added sugar that is gonna make you more obese, that's gonna increase your diabetes complications or risk for diabetes, okay? So if you found this information useful, give us a like, share this with friends and family who need it, who need to hear this. Click the link below in the description and learn how you can say goodbye to your diabetes forever. Learn how you can eat better for your genetics and your DNA and your family lineage and history. You know, especially if you're African American or Native American, you can reverse your diabetes. You can beat your diabetes. So click the link in the description, give us a like, and share this with friends and family. Thank you so much for watching and have a wonderful day.